Yeah, I'm scared because I'm converting to Judaism, and like my kids are Jewish, my wife is Jewish, and after October 7th, and after those guys got killed with the pagers, dude, they're gonna retaliate. Like they're gonna retaliate, and like that's why I fly my Star David flag, because I'm trying to like see where they're living, and like I'm trying to be like a rabbit so they can fucking find me, because I mean they're definitely gonna retaliate, and if they're here, it's gonna happen, and I mean, you can get all kinds of stuff. I mean, like there's missing nuclear bombs out there. There's, I mean, back in like 2002, there was an operation called Noah's Ark where Shady 13, like the Jewish frogmen, they found 50 tons of fucking Palestinian weapons that were just found on a cargo ship that was supposed to be legal, and which means we caught that one guy. How many did we not catch? And I mean, for sure, if the Palestinians or Iranians had like a dirty bomb, you don't think they would just launch it off like in the water in Galveston Bay? They totally would. Like it's scary shit out there, and people don't want to talk about it and stop it. But they're like, I mean, they're more worried about the cartels with like the guns and the drugs, which I don't even think that's really that big of an issue. I think it's more about smuggling random people here that we don't know who they are. And if you got like the FARC style submarines, and you get one suicide bomber with a fucking dirty bomb in Galveston Bay, that'd be bad. And like the reason it's not happening is because people like us stopping it. Like if we just lay down our arms, they would fucking totally do it. Like 1,000%. There's two. Well, I think we're doing that now. I mean, I think, like my little birdies are telling me that like just people I talk to, news outlets, that the CIA is actually in Mexico training some of the cartels. Oh, they're training people to fight the cartels now. I mean, I was down there in 2008 in Manzanillo, Mexico. I taught some of the special forces medics down there. It was me and one non-SEAL. We trained them. So I think we're doing that now, and I think we're trying to like figure out what that network is. But if you want like the violence, the violent portion of it to stop, I think if Mexico legalized guns, they would have no reason to come here to buy guns to bring them across. And if we just like legalize drugs, I think a lot of those problems would go away. And then, but those networks, I think, are still, we should keep them open, because you could totally get like a jihadist that could totally go down to South America or El Salvador and use one of those submarines and smuggle something on one of those submarines and bring it straight in. And so I think you're right. Like we should definitely work with them. But I think we are, because some of these guys are highly trained. Like how is there cartel guys with jammers? You got cartel guys with jammers, like high level gear. Yeah, they got fucking submarine, like old FARC style submarines from back in. Yeah, and I think we're doing the same thing. I mean, the CIA helped train the Mujahideen to fight the Russians, but the CIA only thinks like 20, 30 years ahead. Like they don't think that like when we pull out of Mexico, what's going to happen to all those guys you trained? Like they could totally become like an Al Qaeda type unit. And so, because when I understand the CIA is down there now, like there's tier 1 assets trying to.
Oh, there's got to be
training them. I don't know if it's an official capacity. Some of them do it just for money because they're mercenaries, but I don't know if it's like a official capacity. But I think we have a common enemy. Like the cartels have a common enemy because jihadists don't like Mexicans. They're Catholic, and they don't like Christians, and so we have a common enemy where you could totally get some good cartel guys to help facilitate figuring out if there's jihadists down there, if there's any kind of Muslim guys, because Muslim guys can blend in very, very easily from a distance. I can point them out because they have different mannerisms. Like, they'll do certain things like culture, like they'll go like this when they meet you, and like some stuff like under stress they can't hide it, but from a distance they look like a Mexican.
I mean, I will use it because I would just plant the seed on their head to the cartels, be like, hey, if they attack America, your money's gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if they got a dirty bomb, into Galveston Bay, the cartel's money would dry the fuck up real fast.
I mean, they're gonna close the borders. There's gonna be a total lockdown, and they will be affected. And I guarantee you, there will be.
But commerce would fall apart as well because they run. I mean, there's a hard balance to get what you want and not go too far to where you pissed somebody off really bad, and now you just became the focal point where, okay, we got to get rid of this guy or whichever vehicle he's driving, and there's so much into that and chasing and following people and stuff like that. When I was in in Bosnia, we did hits, but we were undercover. I think the statute of limitations on whatever, but we had women that were interpreters. Sometimes they'd wear dish dashes, sometimes they didn't, and yeah, the best intel that we would get was from an angry wife. Seriously, you'd get, and they'll just spill the beans on everything, to the interpreters, and I'm like, they're really into it, and I'm like, yeah, David Lee Good. I served for 21 years. I had broken service, so that's why it was 21 years. So that's what I did. You were just humble.
Yeah, Sean Douglas Day. 9/11 was my senior year. I signed up like 2 months afterwards, so I did 2001, 2013. So I was either in training to be a SEAL or SEAL the entire time.
You're still trying.
I'm still trying to be a SEAL.
Yeah.
I'm more in the espionage world. When I was a kid, if you would have asked me where I would be right now, I'd be like balls deep in the CIA, like undercover doing something. Like that's what, like, my two favorite movies as a kid was Charlie Sheen's Navy SEALs and Spies Like Us. So like that was my goal. But somewhere along the way, I became a farmer. Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
You probably got tired of getting shot at.
Yeah, and seeing shady stuff and training future terrorists of America. So yeah.
Yeah, the good guys that are not good guys.
You got liberals like, just train them. I'm like, no, but you got to do it.
I grew up in Wyoming. Northwest corner was probably an hour-ish to get to Yellowstone National Park. Lived in the northern corner. Basically, you could drive from my house maybe 45, 50 minutes, and you were at the gate of Yellowstone. So really pretty in the summertime, the wintertime, because it's brutal cold. So I've shed the like, okay, this is really cold, because now I'm in Texas, and when it gets down to like 40, and it's like, oh, I need a jacket. But I would run around, in shorts and shoes, and in the dead of winter, because I just didn't have any feelings, I guess. I don't know.
I grew up born in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and then grew up in and around that area. My dad was in the Navy, diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was like, I guess before I was born, and then like got out of the Navy.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a master mechanic on MH60s. I guess a bunch of guys died, and he took it really hard. He had a really bad childhood too. I mean, he was like raped by his gay uncle and all this stuff as a kid. So he had a good career in the Navy, and then they broke up, and then so the first 5 years of my life, I was just living out of hotels, my grandma's house, and then I had a dad when I was like 3, but then he got hit by a train, and then
You can't even make that up.
And then my dad basically, before he died, he had real bad schizophrenia. He fucking told me he pushed my stepdad into the fucking train, like in the VA. I don't know if it's true or not. He was fucking nuts. But that was like the first 5 years of my life, was that, just all that chaos. Mom was into cocaine and drugs, and she had a really, I've forgiven her, but she was adopted when she was like 2 or 3. She was locked in closets by her parents.
Oh, wow.
And then she got put into adoption by a dad that wanted to raise her, and then my grandma didn't want kids at all. So she grew up in that. And so once my dad went nuts, she got into like hardcore cocaine. So I was around drug addicts, like random people doing drugs in front of me, getting coked out, like trying to get me to touch their breasts and stuff like that. Well, now if I was older, it would have been fun. But not when you're fucking 5 years old, because one of them tried fucking want me to touch her. My mom was passed out, and I fucking fought her off with an Atari controller. I was like, fucking bitch. I was like, get the fuck out of here. But then around 5 years old, my stepdad came into the picture and told my mom, like, you need to fucking chill out with all the drugs. And so she got hardcore into drinking at that point. So I grew up with like just alcoholics. But then I guess 12 or 13, my dad quit drinking alcohol. But they were functioning alcoholics. They would like work their asses off, own multiple businesses, always scrounge money together. But I was around alcoholics. But then when I was in 5th grade, my brother, Mike, he came to town. He was part of Leapfrogs, a Navy SEAL. And for an entire week, I got to take off school and just hang out with Navy SEALs. So ever since I was in 5th grade, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And so from 5th grade on, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And then like 9/11, just it felt like fate or something was happening. I was like, oh shit, like we're going to fucking war. So I just signed up.
Question for you. Did Charlie Sheen have anything to do with that?
So
the movie Navy SEALs?
So I
saw it.
So I actually never knew what a Navy SEAL was before I met, my brother. I met my brother a few times, like when I was real young in the crib, but I never like remembered him. When I like met him for the first time, basically when I was in 5th grade, then I was like, holy shit, this is a job. Like you can jump out of planes. And so from there, I read every single Navy SEAL book you could possibly think, all the movies, the old school frogmen, and then I saw Charlie Sheen, and I was like, I watched all of it all the time and started reading books. I'm like, this is a fucking job. I'm like, I'm already hunting and fishing, blowing shit up anyway, and starting fires. So Charlie Sheen was definitely part of it.
Yeah, you may as well get paid for it.
Yeah. And then like Spies Like Us, because I started learning about how the frogmen were working with like the plumbers in Vietnam, and I was like, I want to be a plumber. I'm like, that sounds fucking badass. So yeah, ever since I was in 5th grade, that's all I ever wanted to do was be military spy person.
I started as a deep sea diver. I did training in basically here in Virginia. Are we in Virginia? We're in Virginia.
We're in Texas.
Texas, never mind.
TBI.
But yeah, so when I went to the UDT SEAL Foundation, whatever their museum, and just seeing the most archaic things like a torpedo, but they made it to where you can actually drive it. It's a one-way mission. You're basically they changed the torpedo a little bit to where they could control it, and then once they got close, they just hit it, blow themselves up, and blow everything else up. I'd like to say that none of the SEALs did that because we're a little bit smarter than that.
Wait, so there's U.S. personnel that would just kill themselves?
They'd get on, yeah. They'd make it to where they could. You haven't seen those at the SEAL Museum?
No, I didn't know there was like suicide guys in there. Really?
Well, they didn't tell them they were suicide guys because
What the
that'd be
fuck?
a hard one to fill. It's like, yeah, we got this green big explosive, and we put propellers and some stuff to where you can steer it, and then goes into the ship and hits the ship and blows the ship up.
And you're like, I want to do that.
No, I said I didn't want to do that. I want to do something different.
Okay. I mean, I think for the most part, I think to some extent, like warriors and like frogmen are born because like you either got it or you don't. So I think I always had it in me. So I think if it wasn't for him, I probably would have done something in the military. I don't know if I would have been a SEAL, but he definitely opened my eyes to it. But no, but even before that, I mean, I was always playing GI Joes, like jumping off the roofs and just doing just crazy shit. Like I remember as a kid, like climbing trees and getting shady ass ropes, tying them together and putting bike handles through them, finding every single way to start fires. So I was already like into that stuff anyway. But when I saw him at Dev, I was like, oh, I can get paid for this. Cause like as a kid, I was like, what am I gonna do? Like be a veterinarian, or as a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian or something like that. But when I saw that whole week, what they were doing, and then in the coming weeks after that, in the coming years, just reading all about it and seeing all the movies, I'm like, it definitely sparked something. But I don't think you can produce like a frogman. I don't like, because there's He'll tell you like there's some people in buds.
You can't mass produce special forces. They've tried. They can put in a starting buds class is like 200 plus people. And then you go through Hell Week, and then there's 10 people, and then they have, and the guys that have gone through more than one time. I went through the whole way. I was there for 6 months and 5 days because I was already a deep sea diver, and I didn't want to stay there any longer than I had to. So I went through the whole way. There's a lot of guys, and I don't take anything away from it. Buds is tough. Becoming a SEAL is tough. But I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to. And they called me helmet because I had a dive helmet. It's right here. Yeah, I didn't get rid of that.
I remember that one. Yeah.
So deep sea diver, and I basically I was like I don't. All the SEALs were such assholes to the dive technique. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I was a diver, and I saw all the SEALs, and I could outrun them. I could outdo this, and and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna be a SEAL. When we finally got to where, yeah, and there's been people that have gone through buds for a year. They go through, you get to Hell Week and everyone's hurt, and then they'll just roll them back to the next class and roll them back, and then pretty soon they've been there for a year and a half. I didn't want to stay there another minute. Once
Yeah, I know a guy. I won't mention his name because he's still operating, but he's at SEAL Team 6 and like works with Israelis and all that kind of stuff. He's still active, but he actually quit his first time, came back, then made it through, and then made it all the way through Green Team and SEAL Team 6. So it's interesting. Like being able to predict who's going to make it. They've gotten like the smartest people in the world and they can't figure it out. Cause even that guy, he quit and then he went to the fleet and somehow made it back through and also went to the highest levels. Now he's working with the Israelis. So it's very weird who makes it through. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
Well, it's just this thing that's not perfectly in the center of your chest, but it's to the side here. That's called the heart.
Yeah, probably some balls too.
It was just chaos. It's like I could fast forward to when we started Hell Week. It's just complete chaos, and you can't. I don't know how anybody, because I've watched Bud's, footage, and I get done and I watch it and I'm like, I can't believe that anyone could ever could make it through this. And it's like you just keep trucking, and there was some good parts to it, like when you went to McPee's and drank a bunch of beer.
Yeah. Well, I would say like this, like the SEAL teams, you get the highest highs that no one will ever feel, but you get the lowest lows too. And I think sometimes it's like all relative, but you're like such a shit sandwich all the time that when you get any kind of like a relief, you're like, like the relief. It's just it's like so relieving. It's like, oh my God. And then you get addicted to it. You get addicted to like that super, super high and that super, super low. It's
and they tell you, it's like, hey, it pays to be a winner. Okay. Well,
sometimes.
All right. Yeah. So it's like, all right, you're gonna go ahead and sit down. We got a meal for you or whatever, an MRE, and then
yeah, I mean, like
he's in love.
Like when I was going through buds, like I remember in Hell Week.
Did you go straight through?
So I skipped Indoc. I started buds like the very next day, and I went from core school and skipped everything. So I wasn't used to the soft sand run. So like my first, but I got rolled, and I think it was subjectively because I got rolled for pool comp because they kept saying that I was coming up too soon. So for pool comp, it's like super dangerous. It's basically simulating you're behind enemy lines, and like you can't come up for air like no matter what. And if you get rough seas, you stop to just like unfuck all your gear. And so they give you a series of knots, and you have to hold your breath and undo all the knots. And eventually they give you a whammy knot where you're like supposed to identify it's the whammy knot, and you can't untie it, and then you have to kiss the bottom, stay calm, and blow all your air out. Because if you take in that compressed air and just bolt to the surface, you're basically your lungs explode and like it's bad. You get like a stroke essentially, super gnarly. But I was very, very calm, and they kept telling me that wasn't the whammy knot. I'm like, well, I spent like a minute on this fucking knot, and they kept saying that. So I failed 4 times for my pool comp, and I think it was like subjective. I don't. So I got rolled, and then I came back and passed everything, like first time every time. But yeah, I got rolled once, but I made it through Hell Week and all that first time, and so
I had an instructor, I can't remember his name or anything, but he said, look, if you don't make it, because it was the 50-meter underwater swim, or was it 25-meter?
it was. So you have to jump in,
Yep.
do a flip, go 25 meters, and then you get. So the first one you don't get a kickoff. The second side you get a kickoff. So it's 50 meters. Yeah, people pass out.
Yeah. And I can't remember the guys that were in class with me. And I basically said, hey, so yeah, I was like, well, and some of the guys would just get out of the water because they, and I, one of the instructors said, hey, look, what is it? Pain is
Fear leaving the body.
Yeah. And so you jump
People
in.
panic. Yeah, water. People panic.
You jump in, and you've got your feet are tied together, your arms are tied together behind you. And when I saw the guys that were drowning, if you drown, you passed because you didn't quit.
Yeah. So
And then they bring you back up to the surface, and they do 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And I was one of the guys that it's like, I'm going to make it. And so it was like swim, and then do. So I had
yeah.
drown.
So okay. So I'm a former combat medic, and so like the science drowning is actually like when you die and you take in water. So it's called the mammalian response. Most people when they pass out won't take in water, but what it's called is like technical term is called shallow water blackout. So when you're underwater, like at depth, you're actually getting more oxygen than normal, and so it's like the air we're breathing is 21% oxygen. So you're breathing in that oxygen. You're underwater. It actually feels easier once you're down at depth.
Yes.
But as you come up, the partial pressure stops and it gets reduced, and then it's called shallow water blackout. And generally, it's as you come to the surface, you pass out. I didn't pass out, but I saw a bunch of people pass out, and you can't watch it because they make you face away, and you're watching people, you're hearing people like pass out and like they're reviving them. But
Chest compressions.
But I saw it because I had my mask on me, on our wrist, and I was like this, looking behind, and I was fucking seeing people. We had like this maybe Kuwaiti guy trying to become a Navy SEAL, and I saw him fucking pass out in my thing, and I was like, I was next, and I was like scared shitless because he had shallow water blackout, and it's pretty fucking gnarly. But yeah, as long as you don't quit or like just come up too soon, and because what they'll do is you pass out. The instructor will just push you to the edge and like you passed, and then they'll revive you. They'll do a sternal rub. Mm-hmm. They'll do a sternal rub, and I never experienced that, but he probably did. He probably like saw the light, and they'll say like, "Go away from the light" or whatever.
So what was it called? The where all of the people are on the outside and the instructors are pushing them in.
Oh, the beehive.
The beehive.
People don't like that.
No.
People quit all the time
because you get it squished together. Let's say it's like 25 or 50 people. It doesn't matter. And the instructors are on the outside, and they lock arms, and they just keep pulling people in, and makes it to where it's just really, really tight. And so the only way to fix that is you just dive down deep and then go back to the outside, and then you can kick a little bit, and then once it gets like really crappy, then you just go back down, get up, get another breath of air, and
yeah. And the hard part too is they put water in your mask, and so there's like a little valve in your nose that you can shut off. You can breathe through your mouth. Some people can't do that, and so they'll take in water through their nose, and they freak the fuck out. Like there's a guy who runs my farm in Arizona. He quit during the beehive because that little valve he couldn't shut off, and he was taking water in through his nose, and
epiglottis.
I don't know what the hell it's called.
You're a corpsman.
I'm not a doctor.
Oh. Well, when I saw lots of people that would quit, and it made sense, like those people that were quitting. I wasn't going to do it, but and I saw some guys that had drowned, and then and then when one or two shallow water drowning, and so they go down, they pull them back up, they put them back, and they resuscitate them, and and then they say get back in the pool. Well, that gets rid of a lot of people. They don't want to go back and do that anymore. So I said, well, they're not going to kill me, hopefully, and so I made it to the end, and drowned a little bit. You shouldn't drown. That sucks. It really sucks.
How does it feel? What do you feel when you drown?
It wasn't like, oh, the euphoria or whatever. No, it's just complete misery. You're trying to get air, and then you end up ingesting some water, and you just got to keep going.
I mean, all of Buzz, I was basically like on a suicide mission. I was like, I'm leaving here either a SEAL or dead. Like, that was my mindset.
You didn't get resuscitated?
No, I never passed out ever.
Lucky.
Well, during Hell Week, I'm allergic to penicillin. And so at the time I was big into like weightlifting in high school. I mean, I could squat like over 400 pounds like in high school. And so I had these big old fucking legs, which was nice. But then during Hell Week, my legs were chafing like real bad, and I got cellulitis. And so the cellulitis went septic, and
All down here?
yeah, and I had like, it was all my balls and everything. And like my legs, if I sat down, it would heal together, and I go, and it would just come apart. But it went septic, and I had 102 fever, which was kind of nice because a big reason why most guys quit is because of the cold. I was fucking hot. Like I was like, get me in the fucking water. I'm overheating. And there was a few med checks where I would try to like, I would basically skirt the system and not get my actual temperature checked. So they had no idea I had a fever. But then eventually they caught that I had a fever, and they wanted to give me antibiotics, and they almost pumped me full of penicillin, which I'm allergic to. And like me being back then, I had to go through like the Corpsman A school. It's different now, but I was like taught about like allergies and penicillin, and I was like, hey, like, what are you guys pumping me full of? This is like Thursday of Hell Week. I'm like completely delirious, and they're like, penicillin. I'm like, I'm allergic to penicillin. So at that point,
You didn't have that on your...
no, I mean, in Buds, I mean, in the SEAL teams, we had our blood type and our allergies, on our side, but in Buds there was none of that. So the doctor had no idea I was allergic to penicillin, and like had the IV bag pumped, all that IV, getting ready to pump me full of it. I was like, whoa, what is that? And they're like, penicillin. I'm like, I'm allergic to penicillin. They're like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, so I mean, that would have been bad news. I mean, if I got pumped full of penicillin, I'm allergic to it. So that was like my only like near death experience in Buds. But I caught it.
I'd already done a platoon, I believe.
You went to Afghanistan.
Yeah, went to Afghanistan, did that. Have you ever heard of a reporter, Laura Logan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Super hot.
So yeah. So I don't know what she looks like now, but she,
Super hot.
She was there to basically interview us and things like that when we were out, doing Hell Week, and it didn't seem that horrible. And when they're like, okay, we're gonna run down there, we're gonna push this tank, whatever. It's just impossible things that they want you to do, and you think you're moving 1,000 miles an hour when you're actually moving about like this fast. And they just wanted to make sure that you weren't gonna quit. I mean, I drowned, but the guys in front of me drowned, and so they're not gonna kill me. I hope not. Go down at the bottom, they bring you up, resuscitate. They say, all right, go back, get your class with your tied. Yeah, it's like there's no way either they're going to kill me or I'm going to make it.
Yeah, but
I don't want to do that again, though, by the way.
So, can you describe your first deployment? I know you guys met like way after. Can you describe your first deployment with the SEAL team?
My first deployment?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was at SEAL team. I was at a deep sea diver first, and then they called me helmet, so whatever. And so I went through that, and I saw more because I was a deep sea diver. So I knew that if I went down deep in the water column, because the partial pressure of the water above you oxygen puts more oxygen in your lungs. And so once you do that, it was a 50-meter underwater swim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I knew to stay low. And then as I started to come up in the water column and the pressure went off and I went up and I went, doop. And I was just sitting down at the bottom of the pool. And then they're like, where? And they turned the sirens on and all that stuff. And I got up and I was like, did I make it? And they're like, yeah, go join your class. And then they said, no, crawl, because they don't want you to fall and hit your head or something.
Yeah, but your first deployment was to Bosnia, wasn't it, with the SEAL teams?
And it was South America.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bosnia part, that was really cool stuff. We didn't do that. I think it was like my third platoon.
What'd you do in South America?
FID.
Oh, training in the FARC or yeah,
Training
the future FARC.
Training the people that I've.
No, but we met. So I think I recall maybe, but he went to Afghanistan. I know that before we met. But so I did one platoon at SEAL Team 2. And then he wound up being my chief.
I was your team leader.
The team leader, and so we met. I guess in like 06, that's when we met. So we met in 06, and then he taught me to be a point man because he was a point man in Afghanistan. So all like on deployments, he
wasn't that good until like that.
All because of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened? Why you weren't that good?
Well, no, basically I got my job because there was like a big tryout. Like I was a medic and a sniper, and so it made no sense for me to be a point man because if I go down, like, what the fuck are you gonna do? But like everyone else kept fucking up, but I kept tracking because I was as a sniper, you're supposed to be good at navigation. Like that's part of the gig of doing that. Like you're supposed to be able to like do reconnaissance and work essentially by yourself, maybe with one other guy. And all the other guys doing the tryouts were, non-snipers, and they kept getting fucking lost. And I was like the only person in like the back of the train. I'm like, you guys missed the turn like a mile back. I'm like, what are you doing? And I kept doing that over and over again, like basically through the whole workup. And eventually I just got put up front and I became point man. But no, he definitely helped me. Like the navigation piece, like working all the equipment, that was definitely on me, just spending my off time learning the equipment. But as far as like the nuance of it and like the verbiage, he was definitely a big part of that. And trying to keep me cool and calm and cool, collected no matter what happened. Because in Iraq, we had at the time, like the Iranians were, I guess we can talk about it now, but the Iranians were bringing in very sophisticated IEDs that were EFPs that could go through tanks, and they were on the side of the road and it looked like trash. And on one day, EOD guys were saying like, "Hey, you got to stop for this IED." I'm like, dude, that looks like a piece of trash. Like, we're gonna fucking stop. If I stop for that, we're literally gonna get nowhere.
You're never gonna get there.
You literally would get nowhere. So me and Goody just got used to fucking just smoking fucking cigarettes in the front and be like, if we die, we die. And it was very nerve wracking. But Goody always kept me calm because he was literally right behind me. And our chief, he had his own issues, and so Goody, everyone knew Goody was really the real chief. That's who we listened to, and that's how we like really bonded, is through the whole workup. But on that deployment,
that's the nicest thing you said to me today.
Yeah, but like, well, we never got like struck by an ID, but like there was IDs going off like all around. Like I talked to the intel folks, and they'd be like, "Yeah, this whole fucking road got ID'd yesterday," and like you're going somewhere, and like sometimes you can only pick one spot to go. Like you cannot go another way, so you have to just go that way. So me and Goody just were like, "Fuck it, get a fucking cigarette," and like if we fucking die, we die.
Yep.
And so like no one will know the stress of a point man other than a point man, because it's very nerve wracking because literally everyone's following you. If you get fucking lost, they give you shit, and you can get people killed. If you make one wrong call, make one wrong turn, you're just fucking sitting there, and you got to back all the vehicles out. You're just a sitting duck to be killed by every single person. And luckily, it never happened.
And I shared that with you. It's like, look, there's always a way to get out of here, and going back might be the only way, but I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. So it would just people would. I'm not gonna share this part of it. People would get moved out of the way so that we could finish our mission. And you got to do what you got to do. And there are a lot of people that would just try to twice, because we had thin skinned Humvees, so we took all of the doors off. They were just cloth doors anyway. And so, I was in truck 1, but I think you were the point man then. You were navigating.
Yeah, I mean, on deployment, by the time deployment came, I was the point man. But in the beginning, I was not, and during the workup, I was not. I was being. You could argue that whole narrative doesn't really count anymore because there's so many missing nukes. They could be like, oh, the jihadists found this fucking nuclear bomb, and that signature, while it is U.S., like what the U.S. like bombed themselves in Galveston Bay. It's like, no, but so the signature that applied back then, and we can definitely trace where it came from if it goes off. But now with like backpack nukes, like Navy SEALs were taught to have backpack nukes.
A tactical nuke. I don't want to carry that thing around.
Yeah, they're called Saddams. Navy SEALs were trained to basically a suicide mission. But I mean, those you could just plant behind enemy lines and just say it was Russian, because there's missing Russian nukes. Like when they went, so after the Cold War, they basically went bankrupt, and they couldn't afford to upkeep any of them. So there was like literally open gates, and you could just walk in and fucking grab a goddamn nuke out of there. So jihadists could totally get their hands on that, plant it behind enemy lines here, and then the signature would be Russian. And someone who's not very smart could be like, oh, the fucking Russians attacked us. It's like, no, it was actually fucking jihadists, possibly. And that's why I'm big into the Israelis now, because Israelis are tracking all that stuff. The Israelis are trying to, like, they've found shipments from Iran. Like when I was in Iraq, that's what we were doing. We were trying to prove that the Iranians were training guys. It was called the Jam. And they were fucking sending them. Iraqis, maybe loyal to Saddam, whoever, or maybe just like a criminal element, would go to Iran, get training, and then come back over. And that's why, because you could be a moron, but you could literally tell, like in Iraq, Afghanistan, if you were on the Iranian border, IEDs, super sophisticated. As you get out, just stupid dumb bombs out here. So it's completely obvious, because at the point, man, I had to look at all of it. I had to look at, like, I would see these maps of all the IEDs, different color codes, like, okay, EFP, maybe it's just an old mortar round or like whatever. And as you get closer to the Iranian border, super, super sophisticated, dumb. And so the Iranians have already proven that they'll kill Americans. And right now they're called broken arrows. There's missing nukes like all over the world. And the signatures, they could tell you the origin, but the origin could be from 50 years ago. So it doesn't really help us. And you get some moron politician be like, that's a fucking Russian signature. And we fucking start bombing Russia, and they fucking start bombing us. Meanwhile, it was the fucking jihadists. I mean, our saving grace is that a lot of them do live here, but Muslims would die for that. I mean, because a lot of them probably wouldn't care about dying with a nuclear blast, even though they're here.
Oh, they go get their 17 wives, but they all just sleep with dudes. I don't get it.
That movie could totally fucking happen. And like a lot of these movies are plausible, and a lot of times I don't like the movies because it gives people ideas. Like the new movie Homestead, the opening scene of Homestead is exactly what I'm talking about. And guaranteed some radical jihadists are going to watch that movie and be like, that's a real good fucking idea. Mm-hmm. We're going to go ahead and put a fucking nuke on a shrimp boat and fucking nuke it. And it'll have a Russian signature, and then Russians will be fighting Americans. Meanwhile, we're taking over America. Like, so, I mean, Tom Clancy used to get knocks on the door from the CIA and FBI all the time. They're like, how do you know all this shit? So Some of Our Fears is a very realistic movie. And meanwhile, you got people worried about guns and drugs on the border. I'm like, you guys should probably focus on something else. Like, it's probably like one of my last missions I ever did was Afghanistan. Tactics changed over the years, but we switched over to a tactic, and I'm not going to go into the tactics of it because I don't want the enemy to find out. But basically went to do a tactic where we were very silent in the house. And in the past, you were very, very loud and you would alert everyone. But I was working with a bunch of Rangers. I was the only Navy SEAL amongst like 36 Rangers, and I was in charge of my Afghan partner unit. So I was in charge of eight of them, and I was working with them because I was recruiting and training Afghanis to fight, basically become Navy SEALs, more like a Delta Force element,
More like a
Delta Force, like Ranger unit.
yeah. I'll give you Ranger.
Yeah, because a lot of the guys we're training were going off to other Ranger units, and I'm like, I don't like you guys are asking me to train these guys, but I don't know how Rangers operate. So I was like, how about you guys just embed me with some Rangers?
You just put 150 pounds on your back and walk around. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to the Rangers. That's
I
not exactly real.
I love the Rangers, but they're a younger crew and not as mature like at all. There's gangs in there. There's real life gangs in there, like not Marcus Trell. Who's the fucking football player who got killed? Tillman. A lot of people think that he was speaking out about the war and got shot by other Rangers. So I was kind of scared to work with them, but I love those guys. They did great work, but went into a target. And I was, it was typical Afghanistan. Like there's like a farm with a bunch of different houses all around it. So we were doing like basically like one man room entries all day long, just kind of going around. And I came to a target, and there was fucking 4 dudes in there with guns. Basically the exact same scenario as my brother, Mike Day. You got shot 27 times. Like basically that same exact scenario, but I was silent and quiet. And I went around the corner, and I fucking handcuffed all these guys in their sleep. And I could have easily like shot fucking every single one of them, and no one would have fucking cared. I could have thrown a grenade in there. They were asleep. But we went up handcuffing them in their sleep. They were scared out of their fucking minds. And then we passed them off to the intel folks, and they got a lot of good intel from them. We found black tar heroin on them, cache of weapons, a deaf guy that I'm pretty sure was just being raped by people, like really, really bad guys.
Did they put makeup on the younger boys?
No, this guy was a little bit older. I couldn't tell his age because it was nighttime, and I was more focused on finding weapons caches and all that kind of shit, which I found. Went up arresting those guys and then bouncing off and finding a weapons cache buried in some fucking hay. But that was a very proud moment because to me, like that's what it's about. It's not about fucking killing people. You kill someone, it's like
You might have killed this person, and now you've got 5 more that want to. You just turned what you're doing into a bigger problem.
Yeah, and for me, I view Navy SEALs like cops. Like everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So I was one of the few SEALs and one of the few guys who believed in you handcuff them and they should go through a legal court system, because sometimes you find out that a guy who's a bad guy, he was actually a good guy, but then some insurgents said they're going to kill his fucking family, and now he's a bad guy. And if you kill people, you don't find out the whole network. So we uncovered a whole. Wasn't a spy, but like I handed them off to the people that figured it out, and you figure out the whole network. Same with IEDs. I mean, a lot of IEDs in Iraq. I never shot anyone. We called some in, and we find out, this 14-year-old kid, he doesn't give a fuck about he doesn't care about politics. He just was given money to go plant an IED, and like some people would shoot him. We decided not to shoot him, and then, you called in, EOD calls it in, and then they track that guy and figure out where he's going, and you find out he's not a bad guy. He's just some young kid that got roped into all this shit. And so, my proudest moment was all the people. I've never killed anyone, so that's like my proudest thing is I've got no Purple Hearts. And I've never killed anyone, and I'm like super proud about
Well,
it.
you can keep that Purple Heart stuff. It was in Afghanistan. They gave us, when we showed up, the Humvees were all worn out, and then we started getting some more missions, and then all of a sudden we had brand new Humvees. We were hitting it. This was the theater commander. I called him Colonel Kurtz because he had 2 pearl-handled pistols on both sides. Did I already tell you that? Yeah, 2 pearl-handled pistols on each side. And when we did, because I was the lead navigator. Yeah, you weren't lead nav. Went in Afghanistan?
No, I wasn't with you yet.
Okay. So yeah, so we, I had to say it. I was like, you better wash your ass because you're going to be kissed by a colonel. And he was the SF commander. Yeah. And so when we left to go, Colonel Kurtz, he went down and shook every one of our hands, and he said this was the most influential take down, whatever. It was like basically the best that they'd ever seen, a SEAL team. And the only reason that we got better missions was, and telling a SEAL that you can't wear what you need to wear, this flag goes on here or whatever, everyone wants to, make it their own. But when we finally finished it, Colonel Kurtz came down to the tarmac there in Kandahar and shook all of our hands and said this was the best run SEAL mission that he'd ever seen. And he shook all of our hands. And that's about as good as you're going to get from the SF colonel.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff he did, it was on that documentary with Logan.
Laura Logan.
Laura Logan. It's a really, really good documentary. It's probably still floating around
It's
somewhere.
still around. Yeah.
It's really good.
It's called The Secret Mission in Afghanistan.
Okay. Link right here.
I will put a link to it.
I mean, it's taken me 10 years, but when I first got out, I didn't know what balance was. I didn't know, like, if you gave me a task, I was going to, like, overdo it. Like, everything. It's like if I'm going to take a test, I'm going to get 100%. If there's extra credit, I'm going to get 105%. Like, and which is fine when, like, I didn't have kids, because, I mean, it led me to great places. First 5 years when I got out, I mean, I graduated with a 4.0. Like, all my classes that I needed, I got A's in every class. But, like, you can't do that now. Like, I have kids. I was, like, trying to, like, instill that upon kids, and, like, I get nothing out of them. So it's been a transition of trying to find balance and, like, not overdo everything that I do. And, like, because I have a hyper obsessive personality, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
I super obsess, which is great when, like, you're in Afghanistan, you're a point man, and, like, you give me a task, I'm going to be a point man. I'm going to spend fucking 3 days looking at every single IED, what kind it was, where it was at. I'm going to look at all the different routes. But, like, when you got kids, like a family, you can't do that. So it's been a transition of trying not to, like, hyper focus on every little minute task. So it's an ongoing thing.
I was going to say, you're still working on that.
I'm still working on it. That's why I'm selling my farm, because I'm fucking done. Because I hyper focused on my farm, and it's like, it's eating me alive. I'm done with it. There's too much shit there. I'll make a good amount of money on it, but I need to fucking chill out and do some more nonprofit work like I was. Because I have another nonprofit. It's called Neptune Spear Farm. And so I'm going to focus on doing that, more horticulture therapy with veterans, helping them get their benefits. Yeah, but I need to find more balance. So it's difficult for me, but it's part of it's like ingrained in me. It's like, it wasn't even the SEAL teams that did it to me. I was like that as a kid, but then the SEAL teams, if you're like that, they'll give you awards and they'll give you all these things. But when you get out, and I was like working at Fresno State doing, research on, you name it, like strawberries, lettuce, potatoes, I would, like, hyper focus. And even amongst the PhDs, they're like, Sean, you need to chill out. Like, you're like way overkill.
That's what a lot of SEALs do. You find something that you're good at, and then you bury yourself in it, and then sometimes you can't get back. Okay, and then you just have too many irons in the fire. I would tell them that I've learned so much more by making mistakes than I have from things that went right. So it's easy if everything's working the right way and direction, right? But something's going to go wrong. And so that's what I always focused on, like seeing 2 steps ahead, driving in the truck. And then there's a big bunch of garbage, Well, a new guy that was in the tour, it wasn't you, would just drive right over that. And that could have been, IEDs are everywhere, So just looking underneath the rocks and being confident enough to do what you're doing and to use humility in, because when we would catch bad guys, and they were bad guys, you know, and everybody wants to just shoot them, just shoot them. Like, look, we've got the medical people here. Of course, I would like to do that. They were shooting at me, but it's not the right way. And I think it would just make more. So if your son was 14 or 15 and he joined and, you know, the wrong side, and he's going to remember that for the rest of his life. But if you stop and say, hey, and we had interpreters, and like, then it was just like, oh yeah, no, that guy's over there, she's just making some chai tea or something, you know, and you got 3 people like doing all this stuff, and you know, they're moving dirt probably because they were trying to make a fire so they didn't freeze, you know. So the deception of what you used to see, because we did this, I think we did this at one of Kim's game. We had 10 different objects. And then then we went for a hike or whatever and came back, and then they said, all right, go ahead and remember everything that you put down. And I mean, that was the toughest one because we did, like, it was probably 2 or 3 hours after we looked at this thing. I think it's called the Kim's game.
Yeah. Keep in memory. Yeah. Here's the real motivation. If you're listening to this and you're a young kid and you want to become a Navy SEAL, you're not going to make it. You're a pussy.
Don't try it. You won't make it. You won't like it. Is what I always say.
Because honestly,
and if they get past that, it's like, no, I'm going to do that. Well, there's that little spark of fire.
Yeah, there's nothing that I can say that's going to motivate them, but like to a true frogman, like future frogman, what I just said and what we just said, you're going to quit, that's going to motivate them. Like when people quit, I got like, it felt like their soul was leaving me and coming into me like during Hell Week. I was like, I felt stronger. I'm like, fuck yeah, like I feel stronger now because we talked about it the last time. It's like all these people, they're all snake oil salesmen trying to say that they can produce SEALs. They've got the best people in the world trying to like mass produce them, recruit them. Like no one can figure it out. And right now, despite throwing millions of dollars at it, we're producing less SEALs than their NFL players. Like there actually will be more people drafted in the NFL than there will be Navy SEALs produced this year. And they've got millions of dollars of trying to figure it out. So there's nothing I can say to motivate people. Like you can't. Like I said, I think frogmen are just born. Like it's something inside of you. Like I said before, like if you want to figure it out, you have to clone people. We don't need to discuss that again. But I mean, I don't know. If I had the answer, the Navy would be paying me millions of dollars because a dropout rate of 70 to 90% wastes so much money, like enormous amounts of money. So if you could like cut through all that and just be like, we're going to recruit just college wrestlers and water polo players, they would do that, but they can't. Like there's people like, you look at Goody, if you just saw him, you'd be like, that guy's not a Navy SEAL. But then you'll see some people that look like a Navy SEAL, like traditionally, and you can't figure it out. Like
big muscle bound guys, you got to carry that weight.
Yeah.
I mean, your body weight, you know, getting yourself all big and you know, and strong, and then you can run 100 yards and you're smoked because you're carrying all of this body weight. All the shit that all the stuff that you put on your body, 10 pounds doesn't feel like 10 pounds when you put it in the back of your ruck. It feels like 15 pounds. And the more stuff you put in there, the more stuff you put on you slows you down. And that's for any warfighter. You can tell the guys that are new guys, and they put everything in their rucksack. Like the kitchen sink, maybe a Duesenberg car. I don't know. I mean, they put everything on there. And we'll go for a long walk. And I'm like, all right, everyone take everything that you have out and lay it all out. And it's like, you don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. You need that. That's a gun, you know. So you can only carry so much weight so far.
But on the same token, there is some big muscle bound guys that do make it through.
Yeah.
So it's like it's weird. Like you'll see, I've seen Olympic caliber wrestlers not make it through, quit, and then you'll see some fucking goodies, some farm kid from fucking Wisconsin
From Wyoming, you did.
or Wyoming, wherever. It's fucking same place.
Richard.
Fucking that whole region. But no, you'll see just random people make it through. You'll see, like you would totally think that a water polo player who was like an Olympic alternate would make it through buds, but they don't. And then
It's too hard.
and then you'll see a person like me, like broken childhood, like fat growing up, like got made fun of as a kid being fat. And I made it through somehow. I lost the weight when I started wrestling, but I was a fat kid growing up, and I made it through. To the point where I had to go to doctors, and I was like on an eating plan. Like I couldn't play football with my friends because back then it was like weight classes, so I had to play with like kids that were like 2-3 grades ahead of me, which is a big difference when you're at that age. And so I was fat. I can show you some pictures. I was fat as a kid. Yeah, and then I started wrestling. You know, grew up, and then once I got to middle school, yeah, I had to start cutting weight a little bit, and I wrestled at 141 in middle school. Took a big gap, and then came back and wrestled at 171 in high school. But I was probably 130 pounds, like in 5th grade, 6th grade. So like when I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, I was fat, and people were like growing up, everyone's like, you can't be a Navy SEAL, you can't do it, you're too fat, you're not in shape. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm gonna make it.
That's it. It's like, no, I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it despite everyone.
Yeah.
So how was it was the same for you? What kind of sport you did as a child?
Swimmer.
You were a swimmer?
Yeah, they put me in a pool when I was, and swimming helped me the most. When people would, try to tread water and they're not doing it right because, I was a swimmer when I was in high school. And it just, you have to if you put 100 pounds on you, you still have to carry all the rest of the stuff on you. So streamline everything that you have, where you put it. If you don't need it, I mean, there's how many movies that have said, you don't need that, you don't need that, keep that, that type of thing.
Especially in Afghanistan too. I mean, you start pushing 8,000 feet, dude. 1 pound feels like fucking 20. Like, and it's just a hindrance. And like also me as a point man, like I had to climb over walls, like especially when doing sniper ops, like I had to climb over walls. So like anything that was on me, like it would get hung up on something. So my gear, like especially with like the Texas State Militia, I'm always telling these guys, like these brand new recruits out there, they got fucking gear everywhere. And like look at my gear, it's streamlined. It's like you need like streamlined gear. Now if you're working in a Humvee, like yeah, put fucking that bag that you want to bring, put it in the back of the Humvee, but when you get out of the Humvee, just like be very streamlined and like put everything in the Humvee. Like, but when you get out, be streamlined. Yeah, and water. Wait, I like me as a medic, I was always telling guys, I'm like, hey, like before the mission, like you guys, don't be drinking. Like drink water, like because it takes 2 or 3 days to hydrate. So like people want to bring all this fucking water. 1 gallon of water is 8 pounds. Like it adds up. And so like before you do an op, prepare a couple days prior. Like drink. Like I always drink. 3 parts water to 1 part Gatorade. I think that's the perfect ratio. And like your piss should not be clear. It shouldn't be yellow. And so it's like an op starts like a week prior. Like, cause food, you can go a month without food. Like water, like that's the real thing. Like, so you don't need to bring a ton of water if you're fucking hydrated to begin with. So, I mean, I would just bring literally just like 1 little thing of water I got from the chow hall. And I mean, in the Humvees route, but sometimes you're doing stuff from a helicopter. So what you have is what you have until the helicopter comes back. And
they gave us pumps. Stop it. They gave us pumps to pump the water out.
Oh yeah.
To fill it up. And then, so you could always, and then you put it in your camelback. And when you needed more water, I mean, I pulled, I mean, it ruined my pump, but like muddy water and, to get water in there because water is what keeps it going.
And one thing like going like combat medic stuff, like a lot of what I was teaching about is water stuff. People love their camelbacks. I saw so many people wearing camelbacks. What happens with camelbacks is people get lazy it breaks. And the biggest thing is it builds up bacteria. People will put electrolytes in there and sugar, and they'll forget about it, and then it gets mold in there, and they're fucking drinking that in. And then like you're on the op, and if you got fucking diarrhea on a fucking op, and you're not, dude, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. Like if I'm a fucking point man, and I got diarrhea, I'm gonna get us all fucking killed. So we're talking about gear, like specifically once you make it to the SEAL teams about gear, like do not use camelbacks. Like it's like probably the worst thing. And I see a lot of guys wanting to wear those and put stuff on their back.
It's a good way to get a wet back. Throw your ruck on and then, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, they always break. Like they always fucking break. And like guys are always telling me like, hey, you need to get a camelback. I'm like, no, I literally use like a little container,
Like an Nalgene bottle?
not even an Nalgene, just like a water bottle you buy at 7-Eleven. I put it in my pouch, and that's what I fucking drink. Everyone's like telling me what I need to carry. I'm like, that's not. Yeah, and then it spreads, and then you get sick, and then you spread it to everyone. Like you literally have a whole fucking platoon with a severe cold and flu, all because of one motherfucker who forgot put a fucking protein shake in there, forgot about it, and fucking drank it, and gets everyone fucking sick. I'm like, good job. And I'm sitting out there on the op. Never happened to me, but like it could have happened. Like we're out on the op, and like I'm like treating someone for because diarrhea. If you don't have an IV and you're out in the middle of nowhere, diarrhea is super fucking dangerous. Like back before Vietnam, like look at all these wars, people would just die from fucking diarrhea. Like, yeah. So yeah, get rid of fucking camelbacks. Don't wear camelback on a op. I'll leave it to you because I haven't been. That one I have to research some more. I have one story about the Pakistanis though. When I was in Afghanistan, we were recruiting and training locals to become the Afghan partner unit, basically Rangers, like we talked about. A lot of our interpreters said the Pakistani ISI was trying to infiltrate the APU. And there was one guy that he was in really, really good shape. He passed all the runs because we basically had to put him through like a PT test to see if we liked him. And then ultimately it was like me and 4 other SEALs, if we didn't like you, like you weren't even going to get put in the pipeline. But there's this fucking one dude, something about him, I just did not like him. My gut said I didn't like him. And I was like, you're fucking out of here. And he started fucking cursing at me. He's like, you motherfucker. He's like, I can run faster than you, motherfucker. And he was like in the back of the pack, like pretending like he couldn't fucking run. And he was in really good shape. I actually have a picture of him on my phone. But the interpreter said that guy was Pakistani ISI and he was trying to infiltrate the Afghan partner unit. I have no idea why, but there was always strife between the Pakistanis. I mean, to the point where I wasn't with SEAL Team 6. I augmented him a few times, but I was never officially over there. But it was to the point where when they took bin Laden down, they didn't tell the fucking Pakistanis. They just went in there and just fucking did it. So I know we play nice with them, but I think it's more because they have nukes and we don't want to piss them off. And we're friends with India, I think. And we're friends with Pakistan, supposedly. So we got 2 of our allies that are fighting each other. So I'm just spitballing because I haven't really researched it too much. I've been so balls deep in my farm, but yeah, I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't. If I was president, I don't know how I'd deal with it. I have no fucking clue.
What is your take on it between Pakistan and India conflict? Is that escalating? Is now like
It's kind of contained, but it's a powder keg waiting to go off. But if everyone just stays in their lane, but when they'd chop 5 or 6 ANAs, you had to see, we'd put them in the front and then pull ourselves back because you never know if they're going to turn around and start shooting at us. I treated them like combatants. Yeah. I mean, do everything right, use them for what we want to use them for, but don't start drinking chai and turning into, and oh yeah, that's the civil affairs people do that stuff. Right. Nothing was put in our trucks that we didn't put there. And the civil affairs guys, then they got all kinds of cameras and stuff like that. But we'd keep a distance from that. And it was a huge flag when they couldn't speak English, because they're supposed to be chopped to us. And they all say, oh yeah, we can speak English. And that was about the extent of their English. So we just had to watch them more until, I mean, and we had some of the guys that were just really good war fighters, you know, on Afghanistan, and never had a problem with them. But you never know, because so it's all, everything's always loaded, and, you know, a little bit of a distance here.
Yeah, I mean, off that topic, I mean, I think the foreign internal defense mission needs to go away. Like, it's we've tried it over and over again, and it keeps producing better and better terrorists in the future. I think we're doing the same thing now. Where obviously Afghanistan was a complete nightmare. I mean, we spent all that time there, and all those guys we trained literally just fucking ran away. Like,
and how we left there?
Yeah, I mean,
they tanks, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like, people like my mom worked her whole life, and they're telling my mom, like, yeah, we don't have enough to give you for Social Security. It's like, well, maybe if you didn't fucking spend all this money on all this dumb shit, like the foreign internal defense, the Green Beret mission needs to go away. Like, it's not working. It needs to go away. You can either fight a war or you don't. If you're gonna fucking fight a war, like, fucking you follow it through. Put a fucking Walmart and McDonald's on the land and call it the fucking 51st state. Like, you can't do this half-ass thing what we're doing and like think you're going to win the hearts and minds of people. Like, these people, to win the hearts and minds, it takes like 100 years. It takes a whole generation to really change the whole culture. You're not going to do that the way we're doing it. Like, FID could work if you stayed there for 200 years. Like, that's how old wars used to be fought. You'd fight it and then you'd stay there. You can't do this half-ass. And now we're doing it in Mexico. Like,
you just summed all that up.
Yeah.
If you're going to help the opposing forces, or the ones that are not, or they're supposedly good opposing forces, you still have to treat them like they're gonna shoot you in the face someday.
Yeah, and we're doing it right now. Like, the fucking CIA with tier 1 assets is now in Mexico training the special forces units over there to fight the cartels. And we already know that a lot of the guys we're training are becoming part of the cartels, and we're seeing it with real-time data. Like, we're seeing guys come across with very sophisticated jammers. They've got all kinds of high-class guns. They got submarines. They've got spy networks. I mean, we're already seeing it across our border, and it's like at this point, is the higher-ups, like CIA-type people, doing it on purpose, like with Smedley Butler, to build up the war-industrial complex? Like, 'cause at this point, yeah, you could say it was an accident, but if we keep doing it over and over again, it's sort of a pattern. And maybe it is just a group of just dumb people who just don't read history. But I would say, yeah, my last words, if you're a higher up, like you're Navy SEAL or whatever, CIA, like, end the FID mission. It has to end.
War is money, and war is...
Yeah, I mean, if you're Raytheon, you're GE, Northrop, whatever, like, yeah. And they have stocks, and I'll admit, I made money off of those stocks. Like, when wars kick off, I'm a stock trader. I'll go ahead and buy some Northrop, but like, at the end of the day, like, I'm okay if my stock goes down too, like, you know. But some people, they get used to a certain lifestyle and they don't want that to go away. And if war just stopped, like, abruptly right now, there'd be a lot of people that'd be poor and they don't want to go back to their lifestyle of living like us. And they're willing to fucking get, but now like if you believe in Jesus, we need like a fucking Jesus figure to come back, like second coming, because like, it's getting out of hand. I mean, you got missing nukes, you got Pakistan, India, now Mexico, cartels. I mean, Russia seems to be playing nice now, but like, yeah, and you get some random fucking jihadi out there, could fuck everything up. Yeah, and the hard part is, it's like, yeah, the border shut down. I think we're doing a better job not letting them in, but there's still people here. It's like, how do you arrest them without fucking up our civil rights? Because if you start calling them just terrorists and they don't give them a trial, you could be the person getting arrested and being found guilty before innocent, which I don't want to see happen. So it's a very difficult task of finding them. I think is gonna be pretty easy, but then arresting them and putting them through a trial without just randomly arresting random people. Yeah, and then you got corrupt judges that people will be found guilty and then just throw them out the back door. And you got cops. You got cops like I've got buddies telling me, cops themselves, that are quitting in Texas City because there's shady cops like just implanting guns on people like all kinds of stuff, planting meth on people. There's people in Bay Cliff now selling high level expungement data that usually only goes to tier 1 assets. Like when you get a top secret clearance, they're just selling that. I mean, you got all kinds of shady stuff going on. And so how do you deal with corruption on that level, and then corrupt judges, and then figuring out how to find legitimate bad guys like Dallas we talked about? How do you do all that without arresting every fucking person for random shit? Because you don't want to have like a stop and frisk type deal, because then you'll be getting pulled over by every fucking cop, and you got shady cops doing shady stuff. It's not a good look. So it's a difficult task. I have no idea how to do it.
How can you not?
Well, I was part of that.
In that situation. Like you were in the military. You were in the military. It's like you're always heads on a swivel, and you never know that one that doesn't look like he's bad. He's the one that's in the back putting the bomb, because they know you're going to come back down that same spot. Boom, you know. And you helped, and you gave him your camel back, which now I know that it'll kill people, so that's good.
Well, no, but back on New York City, like it's a pretty famous story amongst SEALs. But like I was arrested in New York City because got back from Afghanistan. A bunch of my buddies died, and I was just in a bad spot, and I had like 90 days of leave, and so I went up to New York to go stay at a Buddhist temple, because at the time I was like into meditation, so I was just hanging out there. Took one excursion down to New York City, and was just doing all the sightseeing stuff. And I ran a red light right in front of the 13th precinct, right in front of the cops, and routine stop. But like in Virginia, you're supposed to tell them you have a gun on you, because at the time, you know, I carried a pistol on me. I don't carry a pistol anymore, but at the time, I told him, and the cop was like, I wish you didn't tell me that. And it was all in body cam footage. But I got arrested in New York City for having a gun. And I told them I was a Navy SEAL, I had a clearance, and they thought I was fucking crazy, and they put me in the Bellevue Hospital. So that's a classic example of that stop and frisk. Remnants of it still exist. And so New York City, it's completely unconstitutional. I know I got passed, but you cannot have a gun there. It's basically impossible to have a gun there. And but it was a whole big deal. I got put into Bellevue Hospital in fucking cuffs. Finally, people had to come pick me up, and like, no, he actually is a Navy SEAL, and the whole thing got deferred. Everything got, you know, dropped and everything. But yeah, back to like, how do you solve it? It's like in that instance, they actually did arrest, you know, a good guy. I mean, I was active duty at the time. It's ridiculous. But I mean, it fucking traumatized me, though, because I was like in a bad spot anyway. I got arrested by like fucking 12, 13 cops right in front of the 13th precinct. Well, 12, 13 cop cars came and put me back in the ambulance and put me back there. So like to this day, I don't even carry guns, just because I'm like, not even fucking worth it. Like something happened or whatever. You know, well, I believe in God, so my faith keeps me sane, mostly.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.